Let's talk about belonging. I've never questioned who I am, but I have questioned where I fit. Not in a dramatic way, not in an identity crisis kind of way, more like quiet friction. Like standing in a room you love, a room that feels familiar, and realizing you don't quite move the way everyone else does. You understand the rules, you respect the space, you care about it deeply, but something about your presence feels slightly offbeat. Not wrong, just not seamless. And that feeling is harder to talk about than rejection, because rejection is clear, it's subtler. This is loving something fully and still integrating slowly. With the recent Super Bowl halftime event, I couldn't help but feeling immense pride for my Puerto Rican heritage. But growing up, I always felt like an outsider. And I'm sure many of you can relate, especially if you're the first generation born in a new place. I never really spoke on it at home, but I was lucky to see examples of this all around me, mostly through fictional characters that had one foot in two worlds, making their own path and defining what culture means to them. One of the reasons Miles Morales resonates with me isn't just because he's half Puerto Rican, it's because he doesn't perform his culture flawlessly. When watching the Spider-Verse movies, one thing I noticed about Miles was his accent while speaking Spanish. It wasn't perfect, and I loved that, because he sounded like me when I was 13. I mean, I wasn't a no sabo kid, but I did have my moments. Like, I remember when I thought embarazado meant embarrassed in Spanish. I got a lot of funny looks, let me tell you. But Miles never hesitates to claim who he is. He doesn't treat identity like a certification exam. He doesn't wait until he sounds perfect. He moves forward anyway. And I admired that he could be so in it without the fear of being judged. Growing up, I was embarrassed to speak, and that embarrassment pushed me farther away from my language and culture. I understood more than I could express. I could follow conversations, but replying felt heavy, like I was reaching for words that never landed smoothly. But I never felt disconnected from being Puerto Rican. The pride was there, the music was there, the food, the humor, the energy. It all felt like home. But wasn't there was fluency. And for a long time, I quietly wondered if that meant I was standing on the edge of something instead of inside it. Miles showed me something simple. Belonging doesn't require polish. It requires presence. I grew up Puerto Rican, raised in the US, carrying pieces of a culture that felt completely mine, even when I couldn't articulate them perfectly. It wasn't about rejecting it. It was about figuring out how to inhabit it honestly. Okay, we're gonna make a big video game jump. Just stick with me. While not every character I loved was Puerto Rican, some still shared the same struggle. Like Alucard. Though he's a little different, he doesn't struggle to understand himself. He knows exactly what he is. Half human, half vampire, son of a legacy that shaped him before he had a choice. He accepts it, and still there's no space that feels designed for him. He can move through human society, but he's not fully human. He carries the weight of his father's world, but he rejects what that world became. He isn't searching for identity. He's living with one that doesn't settle cleanly anywhere. That feeling of being internally resolved but externally unplaced, that's too familiar. Even after I stopped being shy to speak the Spanish my parents spoke, I found myself going through some hurdles. I had a lot of Hispanic friends growing up, some Mexican, some El Salvadorian, but if you don't know, each culture speaks differently, all equally beautiful. But Boricuas speak in poetry, a fluid stream of thought that felt like tidal waves crashing, rapid speech that ebbs and flows. We change letters to make hard sounds melt away. It's not como estás, drop the S. It's como está. It's not amor, drop the R. It's amor. And things just made sense. You're not just hanging out, you're hangueando. Needless to say, there weren't any Puerto Ricans nearby to appreciate what I was saying or how I was saying it. So I still got the side eye. Sometimes growing up between cultures doesn't split you, it layers you. You're not torn apart, you're built from more than one source. And the world doesn't always know how to read that. Hey, if you grew up juggling two languages, let me know how that was for you down below. And subscribe while you're down there. No pressure. And that brings me to another character, Midoriya. Midoriya brings a different angle. He doesn't question the world he wants to be a part of. He believes in hero society completely. Long before he becomes a hero himself. When he finally enters it, nothing about his values are misaligned. What lags behind is integration. His body struggles, his confidence fractures, his growth is uneven and painful. He belongs philosophically long before he feels comfortable physically. That resonates in a different way, because loving your culture doesn't mean you navigate it effortlessly. Sometimes you agree with everything it stands for, and it still feels like you're learning the choreography. You show up, you try, you adjust. Not because you don't belong, but because belonging can be a process, not a switch. Okay, one last one, because y'all know how much I love Gundam. I had to make a connection. In Gundam, certain people evolve into what are called Newtypes. They're shaped by living in space. They perceive differently. They respond differently. They represent a shift in humanity itself. But the world around them hasn't fully adapted to them yet. They're told they're the future, but they're still navigating the present. The idea hits in a very personal way. First generation Hispanics that live in the US often exist in that in-between space. Not fully removed from our heritage, not fully shaped by it in the same way our parents were. We inherit culture in translation. We carry it forward with different accents, different rhythms, different contexts. We're not diluted, we're disconnected. We're something slightly new. And sometimes that newness feels disorienting because there's no script for it. I wrote that just so I could call myself a new type. Listen, Miles moves forward imperfectly. Alucard stands whole but unplaced. Midoriya grows into a world that he already believes in. Newtypes embody evolution without a blueprint. And somewhere in between all that is the experience of loving a culture deeply while learning how to inhabit it in your own way. Not flawlessly, not identically, but sincerely. Belonging isn't always inherited cleanly. Sometimes it's assembled, and many times practiced and refined. Now I practice it every day at work without hesitation. I don't think feeling slightly out of rhythm means you're falling out of a culture. It means you're contributing to its next form. You can accept yourself fully and still integrate slowly. You can love where you come from without mirroring it perfectly. And maybe belonging isn't about matching what already exists. Maybe it's about standing where you are and allowing that to be enough. If you're still hangueando with me, just consider giving a like or subscribing. I know everyone watching isn't Puerto Rican, but the feeling can still translate if you're juggling cultures. And let me know down below where you're from, where you rep. And if you're from Puerto Rico, shout it out down below. It's lonely here. Until next time, peace.